Hello and welcome back to the Hybrid Music Lab stage. I'm super excited to be here with Terra Naomi, which got up at 6 o'clock in the morning in LA, which is super duper early. Thank you so much for that. This is a super exciting session. I'm super excited about what's happening next because you're going to talk about programmable NFTs, which could become a new interactive music medium. And your history is quite amazing with having won the first music video award from YouTube back in 2007, and your entire journey is super interesting. So I'm really looking forward what you have to tell us about NFTs, async that you work with, and your musical career as an artist. So yeah, the stage is yours. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. So I'm Terra Naomi, and in June of 2006, I became the poster child for the bright promise of the democratization of the music industry as the first artist to build a global following on YouTube. Now, at the time, creators were talking about these platforms like they were going to be the end of big companies, gatekeepers, and business school educated executives deciding what music we would hear or not hear. It was a brave new world of artists controlling our own art. It was a revolution in the world of content creation. Except it wasn't, because that time is actually now. So in 2006, it seemed like we were ready for a revolution, but we were only creating a bigger and more streamlined funnel for the same power brokers to lock artists into the same deals. And even worse, with recorded music completely devalued due to the advent of streaming, labels were now taking a percentage of all the revenue streams previously controlled by artists. So we were actually taking a step back. This dream of decentralized, democratized content creation was there, but we were missing the monetization mechanisms to make it a reality. You might have already guessed that I was not the kind of artist who would thrive in a major label setting, but I ended up signing deals with Universal Music Publishing and Island Records because I honestly didn't see any other options to transcend this struggling artist phase and actually make a living doing what I love, actually be able to pay my rent or my bills or anything. So I signed a deal, and after being forced to record an album that didn't really represent who I was as an artist, I was dropped from the label. And I spent the next several years wrestling with the difficult task of trying to pick back up where I left off as an independent artist many years prior. So I did my crowdfunded album with Pledge Music in 2010. I did an Indiegogo campaign for another album in 2016, and I joined Patreon in 2018. And crowdfunding experts encourage artists to embrace asking for help. They say people who love your music want to help, and helping artists that they love makes people feel good. But honestly, I knew how I felt when I received email after email from artist friends asking me to support their latest crowdfunding campaigns. And let's just say I was not thrilled. So when I did contribute to a campaign, it was often out of a sense of obligation, not excitement. And my involvement with the project usually ended there. I knew the folks I was reaching out to probably felt the same way. And my process of, running these crowdfunding campaigns and asking everyone I knew to give me money to record my albums, it really didn't feel good at all, and especially not the third time around. So switching gears a bit, my journey into cryptocurrency and blockchain actually began around the time of my third crowdfunded album in 2016. I was a broke independent artist. I was buying little bits of crypto wherever I could. And I actually took the small amount of money my husband and I received for our wedding in December 2017, and I put most of it into Bitcoin and Ethereum. So about a month later, crypto hit this all-time high at that time. And my husband and I, who were two artists, we both knew very little about finance. We were running around the room celebrating never having to worry about money again, at which point the crypto market completely crashed. And it stayed there for about the next 3 years for what we call a very long crypto winter. Not a good thing for those of us who have crypto. So fast forward to this time last year, October 2020, and my brother told me about NFTs. And at first, I didn't understand the concept at all. And when I checked out some of the existing music on the blockchain, it was mostly almost entirely electronic. And I didn't see how my sort of singer-songwriter, acoustic, indie folk vibe would fit in. But I started to explore the space, and something about it really excited me. And so most of my time from that moment on was spent in a deep dive into blockchain and the potential applications for art and music specifically. And that is what we refer to as NFTs. So for anyone who's not familiar with NFTs, the basic concept is you take a piece of art and you connect it to something called a smart contract, which is a self-executing, trustless set of coded commands that run automatically when certain conditions are met. And these contracts execute on the blockchain, which is simply a decentralized network. Decentralized means the information is broken up and verified and validated over thousands of different locations or nodes, so no one person can corrupt the system. And I was fascinated with the concept completely, and what it might mean to be able to code certain actions into the creation of music itself and have those actions execute automatically. Beyond, business applications, which were also super exciting, I was interested in how it might look if blockchain technology became part of the creative process itself, allowing art and music to live and breathe and change rather than remain in a static and permanent state. So, discovering NFTs in 2020 felt like YouTube 2006 all over again. Technology was once again ushering in this promise of new possibilities for artists. But something felt really different this time. Whereas in 2006, millions of people around the world could listen to your music and love it, and you might still be unable to pay your rent, like I was, because there was no monetization, no way to earn any money from entertaining millions of people. Now, digital art and recorded music were becoming valuable in ways that I'd never seen before. So we have collectors, purchasing and trading art online and using it as a store of value. And the thing that most excited me about all of this was the development of a mutually beneficial direct relationship between artists and fans. Crowdfunding promised this, right? We were encouraged by the idea of turning our most passionate fans into our most enthusiastic marketing team, but that never really happened in the way we were led to believe it might. For the most part, supporters contributed to the campaigns and then went on about their lives, as they should. But with NFTs, and the art or music we collect actually has the potential to increase in value in a way that potentially benefits us, we suddenly find a lot more time to tell people all about it. So in March of 2021, an electronic DJ named Blau sold an album comprised of 33 NFTs for the equivalent of $11.7 million. And while this was certainly impressive, it's incredible, it didn't interest me that much because this was clearly an artist with deep existing relationships in crypto. And his accomplishment didn't feel like something that could be replicated for other artists. So I set out to create a path for myself in this new world. And I found many platforms that allow artists to simply create an NFT of an existing MP3 or music video. And while it's not the most creative use of the technology, smart contracts do provide proof of authenticity and traceability for digital art and music, elevating it to the category of collectible art, which is something that was not possible before. So while I was looking for something more I was looking for something innovative and groundbreaking and exciting for music on the blockchain that really made use of the underlying technology, because I had finally reclaimed my publishing rights from Universal Music earlier this year. And I got everything back, and I wanted to re-record and do something really special with my song, Say It's Possible. This was the song that won the first YouTube award. It was voted on by the YouTube community. It was really the song that changed my life and launched my career in 2006. So I wanted to record this new epic version using blockchain to create something interactive and collaborative to honor the sort of community origins of the song and my story. And that is when I found async art. So I released my project on Async in July of this year, and I generated more revenue from my song, one song, in 1 week than Universal Music made from the same song in 15 years. The process was so creatively inspiring that I joined the async team several weeks later so I could help other artists do the same thing. Async art provides tools to artists to create dynamic, programmable, interactive visual and audio NFTs that take on a life of their own and change over time. And to give you an example of what all of that actually means, I'd like to play a little video I created for a recent async art project called Mozart Beats. I'm Terra Naomi, and if you're watching this, then you probably know me from my music, or you know me from my async art project, or you don't know me at all, in which case it's lovely to meet you. Today we're talking about async art's newest music release, Mozart Beats. Mozart Beats is an innovative journey through one of Mozart's most loved pieces, Eine kleine Nachtmusik, or A Little Night Music. Async's music pieces are recorded in layers, the way most music is recorded in a studio. But instead of then flattening those layers into one permanent mix, Async's layers are minted as separate NFTs. And instead of only one option for each layer, there are several different options for each layer of sound. And the collector of that layer, or stem as we call it on Async, gets to decide which of those musical options we hear in the master layer. Collectors can change their layer's variation as often as they want, independent of the choices made by the collectors of the other layers in the piece, which results in so many interesting combinations, 625 to be exact in the case of Mozart Beats. To add to the journey of the piece, the visual art is also created in layers and is connected to every change in the music. So we end up with an interactive, collaborative, constantly changing piece of audiovisual art. Mozart Beats was performed by musicians from some of the top orchestras in Mozart's hometown of Vienna, Austria, and the album art was created by award-winning digital artist Mankind. Let's take a look at the piece and some of the ways you can interact with it. When you first land on the Async Music page, you can click on the album cover and you'll go to the project page where you see the master layer. Scroll down and you'll see the stems, or the layers of sound. Mozart Beats consists of 4 stems, one for each instrument in the string quartet: violin 1, violin 2, viola, and cello. To explore the piece in depth, click Listen on Async Player. From here, you can see and listen to the master layer in its current state. Scroll down and you'll see the 4 stems in their current position. As you can see, each stem has 5 different variations, starting with the main theme as Mozart intended, over here to the left, and becoming progressively more innovative and experimental with each subsequent variation to the right. If all 4 layers are set to 0, we hear Mozart's piece as it was written, and we see the most organic-looking representation of the visual. And at the other end of the spectrum, if all 4 layers are set to 4, we hear a highly experimental interpretation of Mozart's composition. From this player page, you can click on the individual stems, hear the variations, and see the visual changes. Let's look at violin 1. First, you see the cover image. This is what the NFT looks like when someone collects this layer. Moving through the layer variations, starting with variation 1, you see these colorful, somewhat organic-looking trees. As we move into the more experimental sounds, these beautiful sculptural monoliths appear. And by variation 5, the monoliths have replaced the trees as the main focal point of the piece, beautifully complementing the more experimental sound of the music. If I collect a stem, I have the option to change my stem to any variation at any time. I can go into my Async wallet, click on Make Layer Change, and then I see all the stems that are currently in my collection. So I can go into Violin 2, change it to Variant C, update, confirm, and as soon as the transaction goes through in a couple of minutes, this new variation will be part of the master layer. In addition to collecting the different instrument layers and the master layer, Async offers limited edition silver, gold, and platinum records, which can be found back on the player page. These limited editions are collected first as a blank record with ETH or a credit card. After purchasing your record, you can either record the current master layer mix right then with this record mix button up top, or you can hold on to your blank record and mint a different version at a later date. With 625 potential versions of the song, the mix will change quite a bit over time. And there's a good chance that any limited edition records you mint will be rare. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more exciting surprises from the creators of Mozart Beats on Async Art. So you can see that programmable music facilitates a collaborative experience and a way to build and grow community around an artist's music. In a time when streaming services are paying 0.004 cents per stream, NFTs represent one of the only sustainable financial paths for independent artists. Where crowdfunding often failed to deliver, the 1,000 true fans concept thrives in the NFT space. That said, NFTs aren't for everyone. There are many artists who will still benefit from the less entrepreneurial, more corporate world of major labels. NFTs will not replace labels or streaming, not in my opinion, but will live alongside the existing options as another way to build a career in music, one in which the artist has control. The most exciting thing about music on the blockchain, in my opinion, is that as advanced as all of this might seem from where we're sitting today, we're still in the earliest stages of development. And the thing I'm most excited about when it comes to NFTs is the thing I have not yet imagined. I personally feel like I've been working for the last 20 years to get to this place, the very beginning of what comes next. Thank you so much.
Wow, thanks a lot for this presentation. It was really insightful and so well articulated. I guess that a lot of people who are watching this now who haven't understood what NFTs are, how they work, and what it could mean to them as like musicians or people who work in music business, they now got it, I guess, because you really explained it super well. One of the questions that probably come or often come first is like, how do you like is that like if you create an NFT, it doesn't matter if it's like a programmable NFT or any other kind of NFT, but in the case of Async Art and the company you're working with, is that does it mean that the music that you put on Async Art is now owned by the collectors who kind of like bought the different stems, and you can't do anything with that? Or can you still release it on a vinyl or whatever and get royalties from that without having to give up something to like people who own your NFT? Can you explain a little bit how this it works because you just got your rights back from Universal finally, which I think is it's like everybody should do that who is in a position to do that. But can you explain a little bit how it works around that?
Yeah, absolutely. So just like when you buy a CD, you don't own the music, you don't own the rights to anything that's on that CD. When you buy an album, it doesn't now give you the right to go out and license the music or use it. You don't own the master or the publishing. You just own a copy of that you bought, and it's the same thing with NFTs. When I release, unless otherwise specified, because I should say there are, one of the most exciting developments that's happening right now is people musicians specifically are figuring out ways to, fractionalize ownership of their masters and give people an actual participation in the rights of the music, but unless that's specified in most of the case, most often, most of the time, this is not, it's not an issue at all. They don't own my song. They don't own my publishing. What they do, the only thing, like the folks who buy the stem layers, they get to control the mix on Async Art. They don't get to use the stems for anything else or, it's just within the platform of Async Art is what they now own. They own this piece of audiovisual art that almost unlocks the ability for them to interact with the music and the art with the piece.
All right, so it's kind of like decentralized, centralized, so they can use it on that platform, but can't really use it. Like, of course, they cannot monetize it somewhere else, but they probably are able to brag about that on their own homepage and say, hey, I'm owning like all the stems for this and that song, and but they also can resell it. So it's not that they are actually like this is like one of the sentences that I hear often from music industry folks is that you know, like this technology giants, they're piggybacking on our work, and they are basically taking away the creativity from people and making money with that. This is not what people can do with that. They can buy into it, they can hold on to it, they can resell it, they can showcase it on the platform, but it's not that they can utilize your music for anything else.
No, they can directly support artists, which I think is the bigger threat to the industry.
Yeah, probably.
They can actually directly, like the person the collector who bought my master layer and three of the 5 stem layers of my project, my Say It's Possible project. My project was his first NFT. And he actually didn't know my music before. And he came in to a Clubhouse room where I was talking and sharing my story and playing. I was playing live and talking about the project. And he had been wanting to start collecting NFTs. He was in crypto for years, and he was like, I'm interested in this, but I don't understand it. And when he heard my story and heard the music and heard the song and heard me, play live and everything, he decided to collect that NFT. And he directly, the money, like when he bought that NFT, the master layer and then the stem layers, it went right into my Ethereum wallet. I'm trying to not talk about stuff but so yeah, it went right to me directly. And I didn't have to wait. I didn't have to audit the record label. I didn't have to, say, why did I not get this? It was all programmed. The splits between me and the platform, Async, they're all programmed into the contract. So there's no company that can say, oh, well, we received this, but we're holding it back until, Q4 of 2025, and that's like that, if anybody is familiar with the industry, auditing is a huge part of it. And there's a lot of music, a lot of money that never gets claimed because people don't realize that they haven't been paid. So it's really exciting, and unless otherwise specified, people do not own the rights. It's like if you bought a print of Picasso or something. Like, you don't own the Picasso, you don't own you own the print of it, and it's sort of the same idea.
Yeah, that was one of the questions that I wanted to ask you. Is like if like the first buyer of your music was like a super fan of yours, or somebody who is like a super like deep into crypto NFTs. And it's even more amazing to hear that person has not heard your music before entering that Clubhouse room, and that you got like support from someone outside of your fandom bubble, basically, and that person like wanted to support you. So I think it's a lot about promoting these kind of a platform like Async Art to other artists, first of all, to release on that platforms, and then on the other hand to fans out there to know that there's actually a direct way to support artists and get something back from that directly. And so there's one question that I wanted to ask you, because there's like a couple of questions in the chat. Like there's Martin asks, when you say it's a sustainable path, do you see this space becoming one that won't adhere to the 99-1 rule? Do you know what he means with that?
The 99-1 rule.
Yeah.
I don't actually.
Good. Me neither. So then we're probably not going to come across that. So Martin, if you're still watching that, if you want to explain that in the chat a little bit more, then I'm happy to like continue with that question.
Yeah.
But then another question is like, can everybody release music on Async Art, or is this like a more curated kind of gallery style platform thing that you have to apply for, and you have to prove that you own all the stems, and so on and so on and so on? So can you tell a little bit about this process for artists to become part of that?
Yep, absolutely. And I also just want to mention something that you brought up, because it was so important, which is that right now it is such early days that, to be honest, I don't know if any of my existing fans have bought any of my NFTs, because it's such a small group of people right now, relatively small group of people that are even aware of the technology. And it's still kind of like scary to a lot of people. It's just totally unknown to them. And it's so early. So it's like, the interesting thing is, a lot of artists who have pre-existing fan bases are finding that when they go into the NFT space, they're sort of starting fresh in a way. And that could be seen as like, oh no, but I mean, in my case, to me, I'm like, this is amazing. There's, millions of people in this whole new world that have never heard of me, don't know my music, don't know my story. Like I get to share this and it's super exciting. But I just wanted to mention that because it was something that I was, that I'm really interested in, is seeing how we migrate people over and trying to sort of create those bridges, build those bridges to get people familiar, not only because I want them to buy my art, but because I want them to understand where we're headed. And because I believe in blockchain, like I got into it because I believe in the technology. I believe in the underlying technology, in the promise of everything that it, holds in store for us. So I want everyone to be part of that, but, as far as, remind me, I got off on a tangent. I warned you this might happen. Remind me of the question I'm supposed to be answering right now, please.
It's about the onboarding process on async. Can every artist become that? And there's another question from someone that also asked, like, can you explain a little bit about the deal between async and the artist, like the share and how this whole thing works? And if everybody can come onto that platform, or if there's like a curation and so on.
Yeah. So currently, the way async works, there's an art side and then there's the music vertical. And with the visual art side, it is open. There's an application process, but that process is, as you mentioned, it's to verify ownership. And async is a creator-first platform. We take it really seriously as far as like verifying that the person who is submitting the art actually is the creator or owns the rights to the art. And so that process takes a minute, sometimes a couple weeks to a couple of months. And so you apply on the async platform for the visual side, and then everyone who has legitimate art and is the owner, is the creator, will have a chance to release their art on async if they apply. It just might take a little while. With the music side, it's newer. So async, the art side started over a year ago. And so they have already developed, lots of tools for artists to use, different canvas templates to upload the art in different sorts of ways, different interactive ways. With the music side, we're really still innovating. And so there's all this, new development that's coming really soon. Like I can't say that much about it, but at the moment, it is an invite-only platform on the music side, but that's going to be changing early in this next year. And we're also, because basically what happens right now is the projects have to be coded manually on blockchain. We don't have the same interactive tools set up that we do for the art side, where it's just sort of an automatic process. You upload your art, but with the music side, every single piece has to be coded individually, and it's really involved. And also it's very complicated. So it's like, it requires a little more hand holding to sort of understand how to make a version of a song that has, up to 9 different layers of sound with 9 different variations, and they all have to fit together and they all have to work and sound good and all. My Say It's Possible song had 480 versions. So it requires a lot. It took, weeks of personal working with the team to make sure that everything was working right. And so it's just too involved right now. But we are working on ways on other tools, I should say. I wish I could say more, but just like follow Async Art on social media and watch the space, because we're going to be announcing super exciting stuff. We are going to be opening up to more artists in the coming year. Are you there? I think I lost Matt. I could just keep talking all day. Oh no. Okay. So we are briefly without Matt. Does anyone, Jonas, if you can hear me, are there any other questions? Do you have access to the questions in the chat? Could I answer them for folks? Oh, I know someone asked about the splits as well. So I'm actually not sure exactly off the top of my head what they are, but Async is like I said, it's a very creator-friendly, creator-first platform, and the splits are super fair. And I say that coming from someone who's been in deals that were not super fair. So for basically, for me to want to do anything in the music space, ever again, it has to be so like respectful and fair to the creator, because I've like literally gone through everything from like independent, major label, publishing deal, managers, agents, like all these things where I felt like I wasn't respected and where I was taken advantage of. And so like I'm very, shy about signing away anything, any percentage of anything that I do at this point. And so if I'm comfortable with it, I feel like most other artists will be too.
Yeah, this is like totally reasonable. There's like now actually Martin explained the 99190 rule, and maybe you can explain a little bit about that. So he asked, when you say it's a sustainable path, do you see the space becoming one that won't adhere to the 99.1 rule? And the 99.1 rule is that 9% is like the middle class, 1% makes serious money with it, and 90% doesn't make a sustainable living out of that. So do you see that too? Like, how do you see that?
I mean, honestly, this is not unlike any other career path. It's not like this is the magic pill that suddenly comes in and everybody's rich. Everybody's making it as an artist. The most important thing in a music career is still the music. And the reality is that it's really hard to make the kind of music that lots and lots of people want to listen to. That said, there are a lot of people in the NFT space who are finding their own paths. They might not be selling $11.7 million worth of NFTs. There's going to be that elite class, like there always is in everything, that are making that kind of money. That's just like, no. Am I going to be able to do that? Probably not, but maybe so, we'll see. We'll see. I've certainly worked, 20 years to get there if it does happen, but, but it's like, that's always going to happen. And then there's always going to be people that, that are working really hard and just don't have the technical ability to, or whatever it is that makes people want to listen to their music. That's going to happen too. It's not going to be this great, it's democratized in the sense that, and especially right now, the space is more open than it will be. And you can definitely make more of an impact. And I do have to say, there's a lot of people making a lot of music that I don't think is great in the world, in the major label world, but it's like, if you have the right hustle, that seems to help a lot. So this is like that. This is like anything else. A little part of it is the music and how talented you are. And a huge part of it is what you do with it. How do you get out there? How do you talk about what you do? The most important thing for independent artists looking to, reach more people, I think, is to learn how to talk about your music. Learn how to talk about what you do. I mean, no. The most important thing is have great music. But assuming you have that, then like the most important thing after that is like learn how to tell people about it. And in this space, the NFT space is no different. It's the same thing.
Yeah, it's just like a little bit more difficult because you not only have to tell about your music to a possible fan base, but you also have to like get these fans to dive into the NFT, blockchain, and crypto world. Because for me as a German person, I can't see any traditional German folk singer ever minting an NFT, because like the major like group of people that listen to that kind of music are probably 60 upward. And for them, it's like super complicated to explain the entire process. So I think there is a lot of barriers on the way to actually make this a mainstream instrument for any kind of artist. At the beginning, it will be probably limited to artists who either can convince their fans to come into that space or to create music that is pleasant and like can generate a fan group that's already in that space. So
you'd
with
be
that
surprised though.
Different.
I'm gonna interrupt you because you'd be surprised. Like I said, what you excuse me, it's 6:30 in the morning here. So my neighbors probably hate me. They can probably hear me through the wall. So they're like, "Oh God, why is she on about crypto at 7 in the morning?" But so, I thought the same thing. Like I thought that the demographic of the cryptocurrency community, you've got a lot of like young males. You've got like, what does my music have to do with any of that? And furthermore, the piece you just heard was classical. What is classical music? The talk about an older demographic. You go to a classical music concert and it's like all people over like 80, So not all, but a lot. So, those people aren't buying NFTs, but Mozart beats sold a lot so far. And so like what you have to understand is that we're not trying to necessarily immediately take the existing fans of our music or our genre even and bring them over into crypto. There is a huge community of people already in crypto like me. Like there's if I'm sitting here and I'm telling you I've been into it since 2016, there's other people like me who have really diverse musical tastes, and you'd really be surprised at like what how many people, and this is the beauty of it too. You don't need that many people. You don't need millions of people to buy it. This is that, 1,000 fans thing that crowdfunding talked about. This is that. You don't need millions of people. You just need, a solid group. And there's so many people already in the space. So like my advice to artists who are interested in getting into NFTs, don't worry about your existing fan base. Like, sure, try to bring them along. Try to explain what you're doing. Of course, share about it. Do all the things you would do if you were like releasing a record on Spotify or whatever. But don't worry about that. Don't focus on that. Focus on ways to reach the existing community. There's a huge community. I mean, relatively small, but millions of people. So it's like, you only need a small percentage of those people to resonate with what you're doing, and you can have a sustainable career in NFTs. And no, it might not look like $11.7 million, and it might be, it might be much smaller. But I mean, from personal experience, even selling a few NFTs is more than I've made from streaming. Even selling one NFT is probably more than I've made from streaming in like the last year combined. So it's, it's something to look into if you're interested. And yes, there is the barrier of having to understand the technology, and it's super important. It's not like the beauty of decentralization is that all the responsibility is on you. And so, we're used to banks, credit cards, if something goes wrong, we call them up and we say, oh, this charge wasn't mine. Can you reverse that? And they do, and they fix it, and they have responsibility. So the beauty of, of decentralization is like, yeah, you have all the freedom, and you also have all the responsibility now. And, but that's another thing that is so excites me about crypto for artists, is that we artists have sort of never had a financial education for the most part. Like that's why we get into deals that are terrible. That's why that's why two different business managers, to be completely transparent, two different business managers in my life ripped me off because I didn't understand finance at all. I was just like, here, you deal with it. I'm going to make the art over here. I don't, and there's this sort of myth that like art over here, business over here, never the two shall meet. And this crypto NFTs make artists have to deal with understanding finance. They force us to become financially literate. And that is super important. And there's no reason why we can't, because that's all creativity too. This sort of idea that like artists are creative and business is something else. No, the same thing that builds and creates art builds business and builds finance and builds wealth. It's all creative energy. So I could talk about this all day. I'm so excited for artists.
Me too. Like I could talk with you. Like I have like at least another ton of questions in the chat and a ton of questions that I have. But unfortunately, we have to like wrap it up here.
Yeah.
Maybe we can like continue this conversation at some point, because I would really like to like ask you all these questions. And I think it's so important that there's like kind of people like you who are not from the tech side alone, or not from the art. Like you are like a perfect translator between two worlds, of the artistic world, the economic world, the music industry world, the tech world, and you have like experience in all these different worlds, and you can talk about all that stuff. And that is so important to actually make this space a sustainable, growing space that more artists get into. So yeah, unfortunately, we have to wrap it up here. And I'm super thankful for this conversation and for your presentation. And I think that most of all of the people who watched that are too. And yeah, thanks for your time. Thanks for getting up so early. And wish you like all the success in the world for your future journey. And we will keep an eye on async art and your works.
Thank you so much, Matt. And thank you to everybody. It's been a real pleasure.